I saw you write about the wartime CFO in different posts of yours. I'm very interested about this concept. I think it's definitely now, right, the time for wartime CFOs. So I don't know if you could share some context about what does exactly that term mean.
Yeah, certainly. Uh, so this concept came up and in a number of interviews and some research that we had done with just what was the experience of CFOs and finance leaders, and how was that different from 2 years plus ago to now. And the contrast is 2 years ago we were rewarding growth at all costs. And so finance role was make sure that we have capital to fund growth at all costs. And the analytics that we were doing was you just have to look at growth and you're getting a multiplier on your growth. So finance was basically the fuel to the growth engine, and product and operations and that part of the business was really leading the charge, and they had developed a ton of data resources and analytics to prove out their growth and figure out how do we grow accounts, customers, and total sales, etc. Uh, Now, though, if you look at that, there's been a big change in the VC market from a startup perspective. The stock market itself, we're kind of edging on recession, and we've pulled back on a lot of these multipliers in for public companies, and capital in general because of interest rates is expensive, and it's no longer easy to reward growth at all costs because you're paying a lot for capital, and the supply of capital is a lot tighter. So what that means is that finance is now taking a strategic role, and they're very much taking that wartime role to say, hey, we now have to think about operating expenses and a path to profitability and contribution margins, and we need to be able to tell the story in a more traditional way that can give someone line of sight to how are we actually going to monetize this business? How are we going to make money? And that wasn't a conversation uh, that I heard a lot from folks, especially more in the high transaction digital space. They wanted to grow, they wanted to get capital, but obviously that all of the constraints have changed because in
Yeah.
growth at all costs world, you don't need a wartime CFO because there's very little constraints because you can always just go out and get cheap money, and there's always a path to raising money on your money. But that's no longer the case, obviously. And so I think because of that, we have way more constraints. And now you need someone that's more of a wartime to go and help folks be held accountable on the operational side and get visibility into financial data on, are we actually profitable? Is there a path to profitability? Does this business model scale? And I don't mean scale in terms of sales or orders or revenue. I mean scale in terms of, is this going to contribute profit to our bottom line?
Yeah.